dedicated to each and every one of you who appreciate a great glass of wine. You know what I mean?
It's Monday. Let's raise a glass to the beginning of another week. It's time to unscrew, uncork, or saber a bottle. And let's begin exploring the wine glass. Today, I am so happy to be able to share a bit of Paso Robles with you. I was able to sit down with Nate Thompson, winemaker for Timshel Vineyards, at their tasting room in downtown Paso. We talk about what it's like to be in the wine industry at Paso, and we discuss their upcoming release of the newest vintage of Zinfandel. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Did you know you can do it right now? Literally while you're listening. New ratings and reviews are how the algorithms decide which podcasts they recommend to others. And if you love the podcast, other wine lovers will too. And don't forget to add your email address to our newsletter on the website to keep up on all things exploring the wine glass. Slancha!
Hey everybody, I'm Lori Budd, a UC Davis winemaking program, Spanish wine scholar, sommelier service, champagne and Côte d'Aron specialist, and a WSET Level 2 graduate. You can find Exploring the Wine Glass on all the socials as well as your favorite podcast catchers. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to swipe, subscribe, rate, and review. Stay in the know about all things wine by visiting my website, exploringthewineglass.com. I promise I'll never tell you what to drink, but I'll always share what's in my glass.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Allure of the Poor, sponsored by Dracaena Wines. Today I am remote, and these are always the best episodes. Hey, I am at Timshel Vineyards, and we are on Riverside Drive, Road, Avenue, Riverside, Riverside Avenue, and in their somewhat new location that just got here, pretty much opened up in May, right?
Right, yeah.
All right.
Very new. We've been around for a while, about 11 years, but yeah.
New digs.
Yes, new digs.
New digs.
Yeah.
Okay. And that other voice you are hearing is Nate Thompson, the winemaker here. And so let's start off with the Timshel's origin story. How did the winery come about? And then we'll get into your origin, because I know you've got some pretty good, things on that resume.
It's around and about, yeah. So we started in Chico, California, up north in Butte County, actually. And so my folks planted an acre of vines because they loved wine, and they wanted to try it out. We had 40 acres of land up there, but we just wanted to start out small. And so I started making the wine for them in 2010. And after I did my first harvest at Buena Vista in Sonoma, and just fell in love with it. I was a major in music, and so it was definitely, a switch for me. But my sister was like, just do a harvest, see if you like it. And I actually liked more of the vineyard side of it.
Okay.
That's where my career started going, all the while making wine on the side for my family label, Timshel. And Timshel, so my mother's favorite book is East of Eden. And Timshel is the main theme in that book. And it's Hebrew for thou mayest. And thou mayest, essentially what that means is, in that book, you have the right to choose your own fate, your own destiny, despite your upbringing, parents that you had, trauma that was in your life and whatsoever, you're able to make that choice. And so it's very much, what we strive for here as far as our winemaking as well, our growing. I'm also the farmer here, and so the vineyard manager. And we pretty much are winemaking. My winemaking technique is 80% of the wine is made in the vineyard. That's my philosophy. We're very low intervention here, so once we grow those grapes and put it in a barrel and don't do a lot of additions, just kind of let it do its own thing. We tweak it here and there if there's any issues with organic products, and so but yeah, that's kind of what Timshel's about. Yeah, all family owned, small 500 cases or less.
Okay.
And so yeah, very boutique, very small, and it's good. My girlfriend's marketing, wine club manager, tasting room manager. My dad's the CEO and winemaker and foreman. My brother's the accountant. You know,
Oh, getting everybody in there.
And so it's a team effort for sure. Yeah. So yeah.
So when they first planted back then, what did they plant?
We did a mix, and so we did a Cabernet Sauvignon primarily, and then a little bit of Zinfandel, Malbec, Cab Franc, and then I heard about your Cab Franc day, so that's really cool. But so we had a little Bordeaux blend kind of going, and but it was predominantly Cabernet, and we kept that separate, and then we'd usually blend or keep the Zin, and then do a blend of the other varieties, and so and it was an interesting place to grow. It's at the base of Lassen, which when it blew, however many years ago, volcanic rock went all over the valley below. And so we have very volcanic soils, a lot of minerality that are in our wines, which is interesting to work with. So it's definitely a different profile than what you're going to get with Napa or even here as well. So, yeah.
So you were going to school for music to do what? Were you teaching music? Were you going to be in an orchestra somewhere?
Studio, recording engineering, and so I graduated during the recession, and so in 08, 09, so there just wasn't any work, and so it's pretty down, just couldn't find anything. That's when my sister was like, just do a harvest, you'll have so much fun. And I learned under Jim Stewart at the time was the winemaker. He's one of the top Pinot winemakers in the country. And he was a great teacher, and I've been blessed to have had that over the years, working for different wineries and different growers that have a reputation, and they're willing to give information and teach you how to make wine, and how to grow effectively and produce a lot of quality grapes in this area, and it's been really great. Yeah.
I do think that's really something across the board about winemaking. They're not, the winemakers tend to want to share.
Right.
They want to, and I think here in Paso more so than any place else.
Yeah.
They're more generous. It's not like, this is my technique.
Right.
It's like, hey, this worked.
Yeah.
And maybe you want to try that or something. I think it's a special business or community is better.
Yeah. And definitely I learn something new every year. I'll be talking to Tyler at Nell Winery over there and be like, it's just something's funky going on here. I was like, let's try this. So stuff like that. It's just really nice. You can just get a lot of information and experience from really great winemakers in the area. And so, yeah.
So you did your first harvest at Buena Vista, and then your parents were like, all right, enough there, come to us.
Well, I was making wine for them on the side. So I was doing the harvest, and when we would harvest our property, I'd go home for the weekend, and they were usually pretty cool about it. And they're like, okay, go ahead and go down, or go up and do your harvest there, and then come back. And so I was doing that, and then I popped down here in 2011.
Okay.
I was working for J-Lore at the time on their vineyard team under Steve Carter. And really great guy, taught me a lot about growing, and then also my buddy Johnny, learned a lot from him, and he's the assistant vineyard manager there now. And just a really great segue of events, and I just never left here. Just loved it. So
once you come, it's like an addiction. I think the same thing to us. We came one day, one trip,
right,
and we're like, damn, we like it here, and then here we are. Absolutely. So from J-Lore, then you went was your other?
Yeah, so I was there for a couple years, and then I got a full-time job on Paso Robles' team called VMI, and under Suki Saran there, and I was a vineyard foreman. We did 6,000 acres, all split up, between all the way down to Santa Barbara County, actually. And so I was overseeing Santa Barbara County, which was awesome because I love the wines there. It's actually where I started wine tasting and developing my palate very early, and just a really great opportunity. We were making more quantity, pumping out grapes, very sustainable growing, but not necessarily organic. And so it was a little hard for me. I learned so much. The first 6 months, what Suki had any of his foremen do is work in every section of the company. So I was in maintenance in the mechanic room, like fixing tractors, crushers, and getting to know all the parts and everything. And I was running errands to buy those parts, and then moving to overseeing multiple properties, which is eventually what I ended up doing, but also like learning about they're called recs, spray recs that you spray every year, and scheduled out sprays, and so that was incredibly, knowledge on that was just amazing. And so after 6 months, you know every part of it, and so you're able to just do it. And I had an advantage. I grew up in the nursery business, plant nursery business, and so I'm slightly bilingual as far as, and most of my foremen were Mexican or Latino, and they also, another incredible thing of knowledge. They've been doing it for years, longer than I have.
Right.
So that was another great opportunity. Just like really great guys and wanting to teach, and and even though I was their boss, it was very much like they knew more than me. So, I wasn't gonna it was like, I know what you're supposed to do, and they're like, well, we can't do that right now because we got a storm coming up, or and so just really, really great teachers out there in this community, like you were saying.
It's awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you come here, and then you're like, hey, Mom, Dad, this is a great place to be. And,
right.
Okay.
At that time, I was going back and forth. I was making wines up there as well as down here for Timshel, and so it was difficult, to say the least. And so it was challenging. So eventually I got laid off from Paso Robles in 2015 at the beginning of the year. And I said, Dad, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I want to go do my own kind of growing. I want to do quality. I want to do organic. I want to start doing biodynamic. And I want to do full into the winemaking for Timshel. And he's like, great. I was around the same age and I did the exact same thing. So started my own company, Everyman Vineyards, which is my vineyard management company. And I do 1 to 5 acre lots. A lot of these homeowners in the area, they have these small vineyards.
Right.
And a lot of them won't get managed by the bigger companies because it's really just not worth it to the homeowner financially, and then also to the management company as well. And so that's where I come in. And so I do all organic growing for them. And it just really worked out. And I have 3.5 acre vineyards here. One down in, I think technically it's Arroyo Grande. It's on that line between Grover and Arroyo Grande. But yeah, that just really worked out. We moved everything down here, all the winemaking. We were sharing a place with Filipponi in San Luis Obispo, their production down there. And then also moved to one of the vineyards. They had a shop there, and so we were making wine there. Actually just moved out of there this year, earlier this year. And then we made this our production facility before harvest, and and so
awesome.
Yeah.
Big steps, baby steps that turn into bigger steps and bigger steps, but really rooting yourself here.
Right. Yeah. And so it's we got a great team down here in the downtown area, which we're excited about you joining. So, but yeah, just honestly, like, comes down to like really good people, people wanting to protect the land, not use as much water,
Right.
do better farming practices, and just doing it right and having a community. So, yeah.
So those vineyards that you're working for, those small vineyards, is that where you're sourcing your fruit, or?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's as close to a state as you can get without owning your own property and vineyards. So and I do that because I want to oversee what I'm getting, and I put exactly into it what I want it to turn out as, and so we source from those vineyards, and we also sell. We don't take all that fruit. We sell a Loma Madrone. Jordan Collins over there, and he makes a rosé with our fruit, and it's fantastic. And also Tribeca, a little bit of a smaller label, and Conquer Wines over in Tin City has taken some of our Syrah. But we just it's starting to develop. That vineyard, Homestead Vineyards, is starting to develop a reputation. And so it's exciting. And this was my sixth vintage with them for that vineyard, and so it's been really great to watch that bloom and into a reputable vineyard, and
So you do organic and biodynamic. So how biodynamic? Like, because my understanding, like, you can go way out there. Like,
Right,
you can only stir counterclockwise at a half moon, or things like that.
Yeah.
Or are you more soil-based biodynamic?
So like one of our, I'd say right now we're at like 25%. If you're doing percentages, biodynamic. One of the big things that we do is we don't spray any insecticides. What we have is a biocontrol program, which is using only insects to get rid of beneficial insects, to get rid of our problem child insects. And leaf hoppers is it is our biggest issue right now. And that's really all across the board. I actually ran into the vineyard foreman, or one of them, at Talbot's Creek, and we were talking about leaf hoppers this year and how much of a problem it is. And again, community, we're both like just talked for an hour and just going back and forth on like, we're doing all these beneficial insects and everything, and he's like, yeah, us too. But these bugs are adapting, it's evolution.
Yeah.
And so, because even the things that we spray that aren't insecticides particularly irritate them, but it doesn't irritate them anymore. So one of the things that
They gain a resistance to it.
Exactly, yeah. And so they're developing for sure. So what I try to do with the beneficial insects is hit them at every single stage of their growth cycle. And so you have the egg, you have the nymph, larva, and then the nymph, and then the adult stage. Particularly, you want to hit them before they get to that adult stage, because they have a pretty hard exoskeleton on them, and so they're able to get past anything and be more maneuverable in other insects, beneficial insects. But one of the things that we're going to start doing, I was talking to him about, is planting cover crops that repel them. And so the one thing that I found randomly and funny is petunias and geraniums.
Oh.
They have that.
Geraniums repel a lot of,
Right. They're more mosquitoes, and like flies and gnats and that. But petunias apparently, specifically with leafhopper, which is interesting. So we're going to try that. It'll probably look very beautiful.
At the very least, it's making everything pretty, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna be getting some seedlings. My dad's still in the nursery business, so he's able to get really small seedlings. We're going to grow those over the off season here, and just see if it works. And Talbot's Creek Vineyard foreman, I'm forgetting his name, but he was like, "Yeah, let me know how it goes." Because Talbot's Creek is fully dynamic,
right?
Yeah. And so they're picking on
right?
Yeah, moon cycles
Yep.
and everything, and so it's just you have to adapt, and when they adapt, so so that's probably the biggest biodynamic thing that we do. We only do organic fertilizers that go into the soil, so it's a lot of fish emulsion, and I get that from a company in Santa Maria, and but it definitely is 100% organic, but we're starting to get more into the biodynamic, even though it's very difficult.
But you know what does reap its rewards.
Yes.
You know, you can see differences in,
and you can taste it. Yeah. And it's definly.
And it's not just because it's a fruit day versus a leaf day. You can taste the difference.
Right. So it's just, I definitely find myself enjoying, and I think it's just being out there, but the vineyard side of it, just being outside, and that's kind of a big nature guy, and so I love the winemaking too, but primarily is a lot of my winemaking is out there, and I can change the tannic structure by exposing the fruit more and removing the leaves, and toughening the skins a little bit. I can do it on the morning side, or I can do it on the afternoon side. Watering as far as not watering. Regulating, my pH levels. I don't water a lot at all. It's just my style, and that concentrates the flavors as well. And we've been really successful, and primarily with Rhones in this area. Okay. We're starting to segue. A lot of our Bordeaux's that we've done have been a mix of Chico wines and here as well. We're segueing definitely out of those. I think our last vintages we're going to be bottling. Actually, a couple of them, like the Cab, is done. We don't have any more of that. Butte County mix is all Paso now, and I think we have bottled everything that was mixed, and so everything now is going to be from Paso, which is fun.
And most of your vineyard sites are in the Templeton Gap.
Yes.
Okay, so what is so special about the Templeton Gap? But let's explain where the Templeton Gap is in our wonderful nestled AVAs.
So the lines are funny here, definitely. But Templeton Gap is essentially, it's Highway 46, and I'm not sure how far north of it is, but Highway 46 going west towards the ocean. And it curves and goes all the way past the 101, east of the 101, very slightly again, and then comes up a little bit more back up to the 46. And so it's that area right in there. So you have Jay Ducey, Zeneda, Vento, Turley out there, some really great wineries out there. But what makes that so special is the climate is just amazing. So that's a funnel right there. Ocean breeze actually comes in from Cambria and the ocean over there. And so what happens is we'll have a really hot day, like 115 degrees, like we did in late August and September here. It was like 2 weeks of over 115. What happens is we only get like an hour or two of that when you're in the Templeton Gap, and then about 4 to 5 o'clock it starts cooling down, and dramatically. A breeze starts coming in from the ocean, that cooler weather. So you have this drastic changing weather, climate, and it adds much more complexity with acids, in my opinion. So the valley doesn't get any of that breeze, obviously, like Fresno and Visalia and all that area where they're growing, Lodi, where they're growing Zins. It's just hot constantly, it doesn't cool down. And a lot of their wines, they'll lose their acid as the sugars go up. This makes for a longer ripening time in the Templeton Gap, which you're able to get more complex flavors. The seeds get a little bit more toasted, which creates a nice different tannic profiles. Again, the acidity, you can watch that. And it's able to retain that, and you just get more complex flavors, and in my opinion, but yeah, it's as compared to like valley wines and even like east side of Paso too. You're getting higher alcohols. Your acids are dropping a lot quicker. So if you're sensitive to that and you're not adding in a lot of acid, then you have to pick a lot earlier, lower alcohols. And I naturally just do that anyway, just because I care more about acid than I do about alcohol levels. Yeah. So a lot of my wines are lower in alcohol primarily. Yeah. So, yeah.
And so it's actually one of the cooler, right? Adelaide is the only one that's cooler than
Yeah, definitely Adelaide is cooler, just because they're in that mountain range right there. And a lot of their grapes, just because of the ranges and higher elevation, a lot of vineyards have they'll be planted on either afternoon side or morning side, so they'll get shade sometimes. Even I had a couple vineyards that I managed in there, which were like next to Dow, and then in pockets, which can be a lot cooler. And sometimes it snows up there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and but yeah, they're definitely the colder ones out there. And that's how Jack Sellers is able to grow Pinot out there, and so they get it first too. That breeze coming in, so yeah. Right.
And so it kind of starts there and then wraps into the Templeton Gap, and then it does actually make it over to Australia. But by the time it makes it over to Australia, it's like a puff.
But it still cools down. It's just much later. And so it's a really just the entirety of the area. You're just able to grow so many different varieties here, and that's what makes it fun. And you're able to grow them in different ways. Right. And I've tried they call it, west side, like a west side cooler climate Zinfandel, and more on the east side kind of Zinfandel. But I even think there's more than that. I think there's 5 different microclimates that you can grow in different ways, and it's an amazing. Santa Margarita has their own special niche, and it's just the wines from there are just going back to Zen. It's just really interesting, just how many ways you can make it, and that's with every variety in this area. It's just really fun. Yeah.
So, what varieties do you farm? And then, what varieties are you farming? Everything that does Timshel represent? Everything you farm, or are there?
Pretty much, it's about 80%.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we're looking to get fully 100%, but for right now, primarily we grow Rhones. That's what I specialize in, and I did have a vineyard, a Zinfandel vineyard, that I grew for right behind Target and by Jay Ducey over there on 46. He ripped that out at the beginning of this year, but those were head prune. They're beautiful. 15 years old, they were in their prime.
Please don't tell me to put in cap, because then I'll no.
He didn't put anything.
Okay.
He was an older guy and didn't want to do it anymore. Okay. And it's fine. And but that's what this is in 18 that I have here, and then also Barrel Taste 2020 came from those same vineyard right there, and a lot of limestone soil there, so there's a little bit of minerality. But technically, this is like a mix to me, a mix between a cold and hot climates, and it has some nice, deep fruit characteristics as well. But it's not overly jammy or anything. But then it has the pepperiness and a little bit of minerality that you're going to get with a cold climate Zen. So it's just, again, microclimates in this area.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Dracaena Wines loves to give back. There are so many fur babies that deserve to find their forever home. We would love to be able to help as many as possible. If you are part of a nonprofit organization or know of a nonprofit organization that would like to hold a fundraiser, please contact us at contact@dracaenawines.com or visit our website, dracaenawines.com, to fill out the form. How does the fundraiser work? It is super simple and costs your group absolutely nothing. Together, we will choose a month that your group will be sponsored. During the month, you promote the fundraiser just like any other event you'd hold. At the end of the month, we will donate 20% of the sales to your organization. The donations will be made in the name of each individual who purchased the wine so that you know exactly who helped the animals. Our goal is to raise as much funds as we possibly can and to help as many animals as possible. So please help us help as many fur babies as we possibly can. Is Zinfandel like your baby? Is that if you had to pick a favorite child?
Yeah.
Is Zinfandel your favorite child?
Grenache is definitely my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Favorite to grow, favorite to make. It really, you can dictate a lot how you can make it. Mine is definitely a more of a lighter style.
Okay.
And it very much does its own thing. It's a very energetic wine and just has a lot of different things going on, the one that I make and grow. And that one's definitely
I think Grenache is such a pretty wine. The aromatics of Grenache are, and especially here in Paso, like the aromatics, that floral, that cherry, is just
right.
Give me more.
Yeah, and they're just making it in so many different ways now, whether it's amphoras or concrete, and we do mostly neutral barrel or like 10% used barrels. Pinot barrels, and it's a really fun variety to work with. And see what other people are doing as well. And so, really complex. Yeah. Great.
So this Zinfandel, tell us about the actual Zinfandel. It's the 2018.
Yeah, the 2018. Actually, just really developing here just in the last couple months. We just bottled it in June, and so fairly young in the bottle, but it's just starting to. Sometimes the wines can go through a little bit of a bottle shock when you bottle it, and this has just started to develop in the last couple months, and it's just beautiful. It has a nice, spicy, clove on it, and the cranberries. It's very, and it has that pepper as well too. But everybody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this for Christmas." And so it's been really fun watching it just in the last couple months. And then I have the 2020 vintage here that's coming from the barrel, and we're going to bottle that in January. And we just have 50 cases of that. This one is a little bit bolder. This was definitely a lighter style. And so, but again, with our winemaking, a lot of our, the grapes do the talking. So if it's climate year where you don't get any heat in August, or it was a low rain year, or we had a really bad June gloom, come through, and so that all dictates into how these wines are made. And so you're with us, you're going to get a couple similarities because it's in the same soil and everything. My watering program is fairly consistent, the same every year. But you're not going to get the same exact wine every year, and I think that's what makes it fun.
Absolutely. I keep trying to explain to my friends who say they love wine that don't really love wine. They're buying those brands that it's the 2015 vintage tastes exactly the same as the 2016, as the 17, as the 18, as the 20. And I keep trying to explain to them, there's a reason why they taste exactly the same.
Right.
But hey, if you like it, you like it, you know?
And they're great wines. Yeah. And but people expect them to stay the same, and those companies wineries make a lot of gallons of wine, so they're able to blend and make it the way they want it. And people want consistency. Yeah. That's great. They like that wine. Their palate likes that wine.
And good for them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. But we try to be different, and again, let the let the nature take its course. And so, yeah.
So is this 2018 available now?
It is,
Okay.
yeah. And we have that for $30 a bottle. And again, it's just a really great wine. The 2020 that's coming out too is going to be different as well. And so 2020 was definitely a below average year as far as rain goes, from what I remember. And 2018 was okay, I think. But yeah. And it looks like we're going to get more rain this season, hopefully. So,
We are getting a lot of rain this season.
Usually what happens, and it's been the trend lately, is like we get like 8 inches, by like January 1st, and then everything drops off. It's just like, what happened?
Yeah. Where did it all go?
We need more, So, but yeah, definitely different wines here. Yeah.
And then, so you have the 2018 and 20. Did you not do a Zinfandel in 19?
I did, but I made it all for a client.
Oh, okay.
And I made it for Filipponi and a winery down there. I was a winemaker there for about a year, and so made it all for them. And I had a little bit left over, but I ended up just it was only like 15 gallons, so I ended up just throwing it into the 2020. And it wasn't enough to make a significant amount of cases and stuff. But we missed that year, but we do have 2021, and that is the last vintage of that vineyard. And so, you find that it can happen a lot. I made a Chardonnay in 2019, and they ripped that up the next year, and that was in Edna Valley. It was just this beautiful Chardonnay, but they were old. They were like 25 years old.
Oh.
And just really beautiful grapes, and
And though that is a problem with sourcing, right? Like you're in control to some aspect, right? If you have a good relationship, you are the person who's maintaining it. But if you have a good relationship with the vineyard manager of that site, you can get the fruit to be the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
But at any given moment, they can say, nope, I don't want these vines anymore.
Right.
And they can be ripped out, or they can and now you've lost your source that you've been doing it, and now it's almost like starting over again because it's not going to be that same, style. Even though vintage to vintage, there's variances, you still have your winemaking style to that vineyard site, right?
Yeah.
And
again, you have to adapt.
You have to adapt.
Yeah. I think the biggest
to be like that leaf hopper.
I think the biggest one right now is Edna Valley. I have no idea what a lot of those wineries did. So a company bought Paragon Vineyards, and they're a citrus company, and they ended up ripping out almost half of their vines to put in citrus, and it's fine for them, But like all these wineries, like, okay, where are we gonna buy fruit? We had to kind of scramble, and either they plant more of a certain variety that they need, but
that's the other thing. It's not even if you're planting, that's not a 1-year turnaround.
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta wait 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So it's interesting, but it's to your point. Developing a relationship with these growers. I've had really good relationships with people. And a lot of times, if they have any extra, which last year, people were still pretty timid just from COVID, increasing their production a little farther just because everything went on hold. And so they were a little nervous about it last year and then 2020 as well. And so there was a lot of extra grapes. It was a high yield in general. And so you had people calling you up, like vineyard guys, and saying, hey, I got an extra ton, or, because they picked it that day. And it's like, do you want this? Like, and you have to like scramble, like do a little bit of that, which we find kind of fun. But, relationships like that, and sometimes you can get a little bit of a lower price because they're trying to get rid of it. And, again, developing relationships with vineyard growers in the area is really awesome. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And now, so you've also traveled quite a bit, right? You've been to Spain, and so do you Do you have a favorite autonomous region? Like, is there a certain part of Spain that you love?
Yeah, we did a coast tour, my wife at the time. We did Spain and from Barcelona all the way down to up to Lisbon, and so we just did the whole coast. Just amazing area, and Tintos were definitely my favorite over there, and those are red blends, and it was primarily Rhone blends mixed with Spanish varietals and Syrah Tempranillos, Grenache Tempranillos, and they were just so good and
so cheap.
So cheap. They definitely had like a little, like, I guess you could call it a higher tier, like maybe like €5 more.
Yeah,
just like. But yeah, so cheap, so good, so energetic, just like acid profiles, with fruit flavors, just like so awesome. And the other thing too is what I like doing with my winemaking is food pairing. I'm really a big foodie and friends with some of the chefs in this area, and so I like making those kinds of wine because those wines over there are all derived around food.
Right.
They're not making big bombs. Nothing against those wines; they're awesome in this area, but like sometimes it can be too big and cover up the food that you're making, and doesn't necessarily pair. So yeah, all the wines over there, just everything like matched up.
Yeah.
And with a large amount of different foods
yes.
too. And so. Definitely the Tinto, I make a Tinto as well, a Syrah Tempranillo blend, and that's where I got inspired from that, yeah. And then also we have a white Sarvino Verde, which essentially means green wine, and that had a little bit of effervescence on it, which is typical of, it's kind of gone a little bit down over the years, but there's still a little bit of a bite there, and
making a true Vino Verde.
Yeah. So the grapes on that are Verdelho and Vermentino,
and they're from here also?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. We got those grapes from Paso Robles.
Oh, okay.
And again, grower relationship is where I worked, and so, and Suki over there's like, yeah, if you want it, if you pick it, I don't want to deal with it. So yeah, it was just really, really great wines. Those two were kind of. I try to do something new every year, and just and. It's more my creative side, my music side. It kind of kicks in, and I don't want to do we have a program here of certain wines that we do every year, but just trying something fun. We're doing an orange wine this year, which is
from what?
Roussanne and Viognier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it's our first one doing that, and it's really turned out really great. We went to Giornata over there and Steph over there. She was wonderful and got a lot of, being taught, things to look for in orange wines. And she has an amazing list of orange wines that she makes, and they're all beautiful. And so she was really helpful in helping us and kind of coaching us on what do you want? What do you want to achieve? I have enough of a background. I kind of get what she's saying and how to tweak it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really fun. We're actually going to bottle that in probably February with our rosé, and so yeah, we're looking forward to that one. And so yeah, really floral right now.
Is it?
Yeah, it's really
very cool.
It's got this orange blossom nose to it. Really, really fun.
And what's the tannic structure of it?
It's fairly light, which is interesting. We pulled it a little late. That heat wave that came, we just didn't have room for it yet and labor, and so we actually pulled it in mid that heat wave, and so wasn't super stoked about that, but it ended up turning out great. We added we did some whole cluster with it, which we thought would give a little bit more tannin structure, but it ended up not. I think the Roussanne was just, it's such a creamy grape, almost like a big-bodied Chardonnay, without the oak, but the viscosity, I think, kind of covers that up a little bit. But the tannins are soft, and we've poured it for a couple of people in the industry. I haven't taken it over to Steph yet. I'm kind of excited to do that. And, but yeah, it's beautiful, really soft. I think a great first trial for it. I think we might make it again. So yeah.
See, sometimes you do things like picking when you're not really planning on picking. Maybe that's a trick.
Yeah.
Maybe,
It's kind of fate, It's kind of the universe and how it works out, is what it is kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that I've learned, and I used to get worked up about certain things, and man, just be super upset about it, and you just can't do that, during this time. Definitely this year people were a little upset because a lot of people had to pull everything off. A lot of people were done in early October with their harvest, which is like unheard of, So they took off a lot of things early, just not getting those complex, lengthened out flavors. But you regroup, recover, and it's like, it is what it is.
Right.
Make it work. Yeah. So you just can't stress about it.
So you guys actually have a wine club that's, I guess, in honor of your mom's love of East of Eden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the East of Eden one is our smaller one, 3-bottle shipment. 3 shipments a year. And then we also have the Steinbeck, which is a 6-bottle 3 times a year. And and it's growing. And we're starting to get more well-known here in the community. We do a lot of networking and a lot of friends that we've developed in the industry, and then also downtown with the restaurants. And trying to increase that wine club. So, but it's so funny. People come in and say, "I have 8 wine clubs."
So then, why not 9?
And it's like, you should shave down a little bit and do ours.
Right?
But I think a lot of people like our wines just because they're different, they're lighter. If people are wanting to do that and explore that kind of realm of different, ways that Zinfandel or Syrah or Grenache is made and grown and taste. It's.
Well, I definitely think the lighter alcohol is. I'm going to call it a trend, but I don't think, because I think it's staying. I think people are looking for options that are lighter alcohol wines. And with being the Templeton Gap, that really is a beautiful sweet spot for being allowed to do that. I think the biggest thing, like this heat wave that we had this year, people who picked because the sugars were high, right? Well, they were fake. They're really fake readings, right? Because as soon as the temperature drops, and so what you got was a ripe fruit, but you didn't get a phenolic ripe.
Right, and your acids are gone. Yeah,
right.
Essentially, because you're watering. That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Right. So, and the Templeton Gap, with that wind that comes in and that cooling, it was probably a little bit better. Because it was a rough haul.
What I've started to do the last couple of years is in August adding on either humic acid or phosphoric acid, which you can get organic versions of those. And the idea with that, and citric acid can also do it too, so a very natural product, is you're trying to lower the pH of the water that you're putting on, so it's not changing. It's kind of holding it still, and so you're not, adding the 7 point. Typically, it's 6.8. Anywhere
6.872.
Yeah, exactly. So you're trying to get that down so you can compensate for that, and it's actually worked okay. Yeah, and kind of just held it still. And if you're watering, but those vines they'll shut down if they get to a certain amount of heat and just stay there. Yeah, and they'll shut down, but those grapes will go up, and so sugars will go up. It's really interesting. Yeah, this year was definitely an interesting year. A lot of boo-boo-faced winemakers walking around and getting upset. There's a low yield year too.
It was an extremely low yield.
I felt really bad for the people buying my grapes. I was like, sorry,
just not here.
Yeah, so But yeah, again, it's going with the flow, you know, which is a hard thing to do in this industry.
Yeah,
so.
but we do have wine to console us.
Yes, it's true. Yes, yeah. And that's one of the great things about this industry is like trading bottles with people.
Absolutely.
This is so awesome. It's just, you know, there's so many talented people out there, and you know, whether they're making 500 cases or 5,000 cases or 500. So it's a lot of talent out there in Paso, and we're starting to get on the map. You know, we're getting written up a lot around the country. So it's exciting to see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where can they find you?
Yeah. So obviously the tasting room. We're online. We have about 10 vendors in this area. We're down at Central Coast Wines in San Luis Obispo, right there downtown. And then also at the Ale House, the Old Ale House, and Beerwood in Los Osos. We just got into the Catch a few months ago downtown. He was selling our GSN. And then we're getting into Belicera over here.
Oh, nice.
Enoteca is the restaurant. And Daniel over there is really great. And where else are we? Oh, Mistura down in San Luis Obispo. Fantastic Peruvian-based food. Nicola is just really great cook and runs a tight ship. And he actually bought some Syrah for me to distill to make higher alcohol, but he said it was just so good he had to set aside some for like his actually personal wine. So it was like funny, but those are it right now. We're having about 4 more come up here.
Okay.
January's kind of a low time for restaurants, and so and then they also changed their menu. That's the other thing of these restaurants, so they're very seasonal.
Yes.
And as far as their menus, which is awesome. And so they'll pick wines for
what's coming up.
Exactly. So it'll be rosé season coming up here very quick. So we'll have our rosé in a lot of different places. And so,
Grenache?
It's Grenache, Syrah Mourvedre. It's a GSM.
Oh, it's a GSM rosé.
Yeah,
nice.
but it's predominantly either Grenache or Mourvedre. This year, it was predominantly Grenache, I believe. Yeah. Just a touch of Syrah because it just has so much color. We're trying to get that, peach pink.
That color that everybody wants.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. But once, we already have like orders for people, like wholesaler, like just let me know when I get the bottle. Yeah, so it's like, okay, it's like,
nice.
So everybody usually sells out in like 6 months and it's gone. So can't make enough of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited that you guys are here, and I'm excited that we're going to be part of it.
Yeah.
And but I'm looking forward. We will taste, and that will be on Instagram and all of that stuff. And but thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this is great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
This has been another episode of Exploring the Wine Glass. Thanks for listening. If you have suggestions on what topics you would like me to discuss, please reach out on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as Exploring the Wine Glass. I am also on LinkedIn as Lori Hoyt Budd. Of course, you can always email me at exploringthewineglass@gmail.com and sign up for my newsletter at exploringthewineglass.com. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find me more easily. And most importantly, tell your wine-loving friends, because if you like the podcast, they will too. Podcast music is Wine by Kevins. Until next week, slancha.
Give me the red wine. Give me the white wine. Give me the sweet wine. Give me the wine. Give me the wine. No. Oh, no. Never let you go. Oh. No. Never let you go. Oh, no. I want it last glass right now. I'm on keeping for my 10,000 hotel, yo. There is always time for a good glass of wine. No. Oh, no. Never let you go. Oh. No. glass right now.